All right, we are back live again with HireMilitary. We're back on LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Facebook channels. Again, if you're on Facebook, come on to LinkedIn. It's where it's at. So today we're joined by Corrie Burton, and she's going to the Washington, D.C. area to be around all the lovely traffic up there. I know I don't miss it at all, but if you want to go there, to each their own. But Corrie, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast show. What do you want to call it? This is a great opportunity, a live session. So welcome. And hey, tell us about yourself, because right now you're a former military spouse, and for some reason you're looking for employment again, right?
Right. Yeah. A recent turn of events. There's the company that I held a position in military outreach with just had some recent restructuring, and just felt that this position was something that they could live without as they kind of go through that restructuring. So found myself just looking now for the next opportunity. So very excited to be in this position, and very excited to be getting to the DC area. Not so much the traffic, but my family lives in that area and have some exciting things happening in that area. So ready to find out what's next.
I love that. So you mentioned that companies right now are restructuring, and people, regular people that you think are doing well are getting furloughed, laid off. They're getting notices because everyone's dealing with things during the pandemic. So it's not uncommon that regular folks like you, Corrie, myself, we go through these things. But listen, they're teaching moments. We learn so much from it. And you mentioned you're excited to be in this space.
I am. I think that, every time that there's something that happens like this, we have a position we can fall in, and we can choose to, take it and really seize it and make it exciting and find out, that next element of what's to come. And I think it's so much more fun to be in that. And as you mentioned, a lot of people are going through this, and, I think having a good support system is key. Having people that will encourage you to kind of say your piece about it, but then kind of move on from it and kind of go to the what's next. That's important. And many companies are definitely going through the restructuring. I think, I was fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate to have made it this long in 2020.
Good for you, because some companies, March is when it all began to right. kick off. So you made it this far. So great for you. And before we came on live, we're in a green room here, and Corrie was talking. She mentioned if she was, if you see her moving her head, there's a loose goat right there, right?
Yeah, Walter's on the lamb. Walter is apparently my neighbor's goat. I just got a text before we came live that they're looking for old Walter. So I keep my eyes up. Last week we had about 50 or so cows in my yard. So you just never know. Country life. I bet I won't find that in DC, right?
I guarantee you will not find it in DC. Maybe Western Virginia, but not in DC area. So if Corrie leaves us today, she found the goat, she has to return the goat. Well, good. So tell us about life as a military spouse as you were, and really what kind of background do you have, because you're a marketing and communications specialist with a focus on military outreach. So Tell us about the challenges you saw as a military spouse and some experiences, professional experiences in your background.
Sure. I think, the challenge that's always there is the part that I enjoy the most, which is weird for most people. But I think I love the challenge of reinventing. I love the challenge of taking on something new. And you and I had spoken previously about how you kind of have to get as innovative as possible. And you have to, a lot of times, become an entrepreneur into the entrepreneurial space so that you can really modify what your needs are at home to what your professional needs are. And, honestly, I just always kind of found a way with whatever job I had. I always found a way to be able to make that position be something that I could travel with. I have a lot of background with marketing in the event space, such as trades, expos, all of those kinds of fun things that have been COVID shelved. But everything required a great sense of travel and a lot of, movement. So I was fortunate in that regard. And because I was doing contracting, it enabled me to be able to do different contracts for different companies when the need to kind of shift gears or transition came about. So for me, I consider myself very fortunate in that regard. I will say the typical challenges present themselves. There's always that, you're on your own with kind of the childcare situation, and you really, for me, I wasn't close to any family. So there's always those typical challenges. And I think that the thing that I hear echoed most amongst that community is they feel that they're often not seen or heard or valued as high. And I think what I would say is, press into your network and definitely try and, find ways that you can strengthen your value.
Yeah, I'd say networking, like you said, is very important, and even
Right.
more important, a resume. Networking it's your personal brand, who you are, what you're about, your character. I met Corrie in Starbucks one time up north. We met halfway, and listen, it was a great conversation for an hour. And the personality is what captivates you. So you can't show a personality in a resume. That's why networking is so important. So is there an opportunity where maybe you met some folks and they learned about your personality that maybe jump-started an opportunity for you?
Oh my gosh, pretty much every career change I've ever had. That saying, like, when you're not looking, that's when you'll find love. I think that's true for careers too. Like, when you're not looking, that's when something great can happen upon you. And pretty much every position I've ever held has been something where someone really presented me with an opportunity to kind of take that pivot. And I think, most recently is no different. The position that I last held was something that was opened up. I was actually attending an award show for the military community organization, U.S. Veterans Corps here in Raleigh. And in talking with someone there, it opened up that opportunity. So, it's something that happens all the time. I think just networking and pressing in and just being present and having fun is what it's all about.
And networking isn't some big grand thing. It's a casual conversation between two people that can start with a, hey, where are you from? A similar background, and you just talk about things, right?
Yeah. And, what's interesting is I've lived a lot of places, so I've met a lot of people. And with marketing, that's because I've always kind of been in this certain kind of background. There's a lot of overlap. So you'll find yourself just kind of recrossing paths with people that you haven't seen in years. So sometimes it's just a simple like, oh, hey, I remember you. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a big formal, intentional meet and greet.
I've read stories in the past week where people just have conversations with one another, and it grows into opportunities. For me personally, I had a conversation at my new clubhouse for dinner, and I mentioned that I didn't want to really talk. I just wanted to go have a meal, go get a drink. It was a long day, and I didn't want to meet anybody. But it happens that the person we were with, we met. It turns out he's some director of HR for a big organization. And now we have more conversations about, opportunities for other people. So it just hasn't happened for us. We can get opportunities for other people.
Oh, absolutely.
So your background is marketing, but can you expand on what values, what skills do you bring to a organization that's more than just marketing?
Sure. There's a lot that goes into the marketing scope. That's kind of an all-encompassing term, but most frequently these days, people are really looking for someone with strong analytics background, with a strong digital marketing background. And then there's just nothing that beats that old-fashioned relationship cultivation. And I have a lot of, experience with a lot of different channels and a lot of different, platforms. And those relationships are really random, but they're really helpful when you need to kind of diversify your brand or to get that additional reach. So those are kind of my biggest strengths through networking and connectivity, just kind of maintaining those relationships and creating opportunity for a brand to grow. But every company is a little bit different for what they need. And I think that that's the most exciting part, is kind of diving in and finding out what makes that company tick and what really strengthens them, and then getting really innovative and creative with the approach, and have a lot of experience in just that development of the execution of the marketing needs.
And you mentioned digital networking. You
Sure.
mentioned that's a strong word these days, because networking, like we know before March, hasn't existed. Now it's more digital network, Zoom meetings, LinkedIn Lives. So if you're going to work for a company, how would you sell yourself or sell your skills to them about how you can use that platform or a platform, and maybe some engagement to really increase their actually brand awareness?
Yeah, I think, again, it's really, it gets very brand specific, but, I think the things that I always encourage people, it always sounds very left field, but if you can figure out a way to get your product or your idea in front of kids, or at least engage with kids in some capacity, where kids are, there's willing, paying parents. And there's a lot of things that there's no direct connection with. But I think I mentioned to you even, if you really want to draw a pull to your booth in a live environment, you pull over, a princess character, and you mark it out there that you're going to, have a live princess meet and greet that day. Does that have anything to do with HireMilitary? Heck no. Did it just increase your booth exposure and get people willing to come see you at something that they may or may not be attending? Yes. So there's lots of different ways that you can get really creative and really step outside the box, and things that don't even cost your company anything. And there's lots of creative ways digitally to do that in on the face of the books, and on LinkedIn. Instagram is up and coming. You have to look at your pipeline as a whole, being future, current. There's more than just the people now. You got to look at your future brand as well. But yeah, there's a lot to be, considered with that. But it's something that I really enjoy, finding out what makes that company tick and what excites them.
I have two kids, and they're older now, 20s, and mid 20s, and I find a way. I talk to them a lot and find out where can they be reached on social media platforms, and they're not on Facebook, they're not on LinkedIn yet, but I'm getting them there. But they're mostly on Instagram, Snapchat. So if you can find ways to get on those, find where your audience is. It'd be a good day for those, and the games. They're always on games these days.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, gaming advertising is something that's increasing in strength in a lot of ways as well. So that's a great point.
If you can understand that, if you know that, listen, Corrie may be the person for you and your company, because she understands where people are and where you put your resources to find those people. I like that.
We talked about before, there's a lot of things that people don't think of in a traditional sense of marketing. And this is kind of how I happened into the community engagement roles, because there's ways that, through cultivating relationships or through creating these outreach programs, it really draws awareness and brings people into your company. And again, that, may or may not have a direct correlation with your company, but it's just expanding on that visibility of your company.
So if anyone's aware, that Corrie was today's spotlight on my personal LinkedIn page, where I spotlight military spouse, veteran spouse. I dedicate Wednesdays to spouses, because they're some of our most underutilized group of people. So I give it one day. It's not a lot, but it's something. And hopefully she got some engagement out of that as well. There could be a few thousand views. And do you think that may have worked for you today, by getting a spotlight by anybody, just getting some exposure?
Oh, absolutely. I've already increased a number of connections and had several great phone calls, and kind of some really exciting opportunities are already brewing. So I think it's been extremely helpful. I'm very appreciative of you being willing to do that for me.
And that wasn't my idea. So the idea came from I was on my way home traveling from West Virginia to North Carolina. And I was having a conversation on the phone, and a military spouse, she actually said, "Have you considered this right here?" So we brainstormed for like 15 minutes, and it got so good. I pulled over to the rest area and we just took notes and we figured it out, and it grew from there. So
That's
this
awesome.
began back in, I think, October of 2019, and it's grown almost every week since then. And people are getting hired. So hopefully you're another success story, Corrie.
Yeah, I plan on it.
So when are you ready to work?
So I'm ready now, and I can be remote, or I can figure out what we need to do with logistics to make things happen. I guess one of the upsides of COVID is that the kids are fully virtual, and we've committed them to being fully virtual through the end of the year,
Okay.
at the end of the school year. So it's, a unique position to be in, to kind of be ready to go.
So if anyone's watching this either now, later on in the live session, or on the YouTube channel, reach out to Corrie. I'll make sure she's linked on the HireMilitary LinkedIn page. But how can someone get a hold of you besides LinkedIn? Don't
Sure.
give out your number right now, but maybe the email address. We'll make sure we'll put that in the information here. So go to HireMilitary's LinkedIn page. We'll make sure your information is there. And I don't want to blast you out and go these phone calls tonight.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just hit decline. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I'll definitely put my email address out there, as well as they can always message me, or however they want to connect, they can just let me know, and happy to share.
So a few people have already reached out to you. So
Yeah.
you probably won't be on the job hunt for long. So
I hope not.
if you're an employer, if you're a recruiter, HR, talent acquisition, just reach out to Corrie, have the conversation. She can provide a resume upon request, and just have the conversation.
Please do. And if nothing else, it's always good to meet new people and make new connections.
And if you have roles that she may not want, she can refer her friends to those roles too. So it's always a win-win to reach out and talk to Corrie.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people will be glad to help any way I can.
Corrie, any final words before we kick it off there and maybe join a happy hour somewhere?
I don't think so. I'm just happy houring with my tea. Nothing fun in it.
You have this. I have some, I guess, some water here. So hey, we're living it up today.
No, I just appreciate everyone's kind words and support. And I did a post a few days ago, and I've had a lot of great interaction from that, and a lot of really great positive feedback, and some great comments and messages. So I just really appreciate the LinkedIn community and everyone being so kind and supportive. And thank you.
And before we head out, you mentioned a good point there. I've got to hit this. When you create content, can you break that down in layman's terms for people that may fear creating content? What's it really mean?
Yeah, I think you got to be yourself. Number one, you have to, especially on LinkedIn, it should be less about your work and your brand, and more about you. You can sprinkle a little bit about your work. You can sprinkle a little bit about, your company, but really people want to engage and network with you directly. So as much of yourself as you're willing to give. There's someone that I've had some, past dealings with and in work, and I think he's hilarious that he started a hashtag LinkedIn appropriate, because he would start content and people would come after him like, this is not LinkedIn appropriate. And he's like, I don't care, I'm just being me, I don't care, and he's funny, and he's like, I'm not here to sell something, I'm here to be me, and this is who I am. And he was very unapologetic for it. And I always joke and say that he's partially responsible for helping LinkedIn come alive and be okay to share those kind of moments. But personally, I kind of sprinkle in a little bit about my life, a little bit about my kids, a little bit about my work, and try and use a lot of humor and a lot of fun, and then just kind of try and show the real side of things. I even admitted that I cried in my last post. Ooh.
What?
No, I don't know if that's LinkedIn appropriate.
Hey, if it is, use that hashtag, all right?
Yeah, right. I know. I've used it a couple of times because I'm like, it's too good, right?
But creating content, really just being authentic, being yourself. And it's not about creating, it's about sharing your experiences. That's all we do.
You would normally talk, but just typing it, you know?
Yeah, and definitely not one big block. Break it down because people read different ways on LinkedIn.
I'm trying to keep them more condensed. That one was a lengthy one, but I definitely do try and at very least break apart the lines so that people can read it easier. But yeah, I think it's just all about just being you and just, you know, giving people that insight.
Absolutely. Well, Corrie, thanks for joining us today. And I really hope you enjoy your tea.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy your bar.
If you can go find that goat, that'd be very helpful for your neighbors, right?
I'm searching right now. I'm on the lookout because I'll miss this when I'm in DC and there are no goats.
So when you find your next employer, please come back on here. I want to bring you back and get you on LinkedIn because we had technical problems on LinkedIn, but we'll bring you back on here, share your challenges, how you overcame them, and how you're succeeding.
Awesome. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Corrie.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon.